We're hitting the discussion topics because I refuse to let our Skunkworks friends leave without actually getting to address a bunch of good stuff. So here we go.
No.
We're going to start off with the first topic. Katie Burns is going to go ahead and present this topic. I guess it's on the topic of material trading. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, obviously, this isn't the highest of priority concerns right now, as you said. There's so much that needs to be fixed with Odyssey, but this is something that I think does need to be addressed at some point. Which is, I mentioned earlier about the state of the game and the grind, and how in my opinion, and I ran a poll on my channel. 70% of respondents agreed with the statement that players should be able to trade materials amongst each other. With 9% saying they didn't want that, they didn't support that statement, and 14% saying they had no strong feelings about it. So the majority of people would support a system of trading materials between players. What brought this about was, as I said, I was trying to introduce some new players to Elite and to get them involved with what we were doing. And this was during the incursion that's just finished now. The video you mentioned earlier, that's the end of this most recent conflict. And initially it was a case of, well, if you want to get involved with the combat side of it, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to unlock all this stuff and set up ships, and which is a lot of work. I mean, it's hours and hours of work. They probably wouldn't have been able to get that process complete in the time that the incursion lasted. So you think, okay, well, what can you do to contribute if you can't be involved with the combat? If you still want to be involved in this adventure that we're on, but you can't be involved in the combat side of things, well, then you could do some logistics stuff. But there is nothing that players can trade between each other that has any practical value outside of tritium for refueling carriers. Low temperature diamonds, you could say, is like a medium of exchange for credits. I mean, that's a loose one. And in the AX community, meta alloys serve a purpose of summoning Thargoids to an instance. But beyond that, there's no practical trade that can be made between players that could include people in what you're doing if they're not specifically set up for what you're doing. So I think that it is about time Frontier maybe looked into the possibility of having players either the ability to trade materials or a system in which synthesis products can be traded between players. It would open up a whole new, essentially a player economy that is separate and doesn't affect the BGS. It would allow much more meaning to squadrons and organized groups, where you could have different people fulfilling different roles within that organization, carrying out logistics roles as well as combat roles, as well as primary role of that organization. And it would open up a whole new mode of play, a whole new path for players to take to earn credits in the early game. Because I personally think that on a free market of materials, I've got so much credits that I've just bought a SKUNKWORKS carrier on my second account, fully outfitted, and it's not really made a dent in the credits. You know, there's so much credits, and I would happily pay quite an extremely high price for materials to not have to go and grind them out, because as we've discussed, myself, SIRRUF, and Soldier Sailor, it does seem that the materials grind disproportionately affects the AX community in a lot of ways, because we are reliant on synth. Because to do AX at any serious level, you need synthesis materials. You have to. I mean, the lower single Goid fights, lower level, you could get away with just having heatsinks in.
If you're a pro.
Yeah. But at the higher level, or if you're not fighting perfectly, you're going to need ammo synth, you're going to need AFMU refills, you're going to need limpet refills probably. The AX community are a very dedicated group. Having to go out and grind over and over again just for the materials you need to do the part of the game that you really enjoy, which, as I've already said, is a home run. The actual combat mechanics of AX are they're fantastic. I can't say a bad thing about the mechanics of Zargoid fighting, but the work involved a lot of the time to get to that point where you're having fun, it can test you. You know, the AX community are a dedicated community, but that will wear anyone down over time.
So let me make a suggestion or an observation. We're actually halfway there to getting what you want already, Katie, in that all of the Odyssey materials are player tradable. Like even opinion polls, smear campaigns, if they were in the game, any commodity, any data, and even data that you download, literally, if you click on it in your inventory and choose to drop it or choose to whatever, you just throw it on the ground. So the data stuff, it looks like it throws it in this little container, which goes on the ground. So I can show up, let's say I have, 46 opinion polls, and it turns out, I don't even need 40 anymore to unlock the engineer. I only need 20. So I take 20, I unlock the guy. Now I have 26, whatever. I say, hey, here, Katie, have 13. SIRRUF, have 13. Soldier Sailor, he already got his unlocked, so he don't need it. But like, I throw them on the ground, and you just walk over and pick them up. And then, you could theoretically go to my fleet carrier and, just transfer some money to me through the convoluted process of buying shit for overpriced and selling it back for underpriced and yada, yada, yada. But so Frontier has already granted sort of the ability to do what you're asking. It's just, one, you have to jump through extra hoops of doing the stupid transfer money through a fleet carrier. And two, it only works for Odyssey materials, which means that AX pilots cannot just say, here, let me help out. Let me do some logistic work and help out my brother over here, or let me make some cash and help out my sister over here, and just, here, throw you the mats. So I just wanted to point that out, that we're already halfway there with Odyssey. Yeah. Just do the other half.
Yeah, totally.
Sure.
And
oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
no.
I'm butting in there, but just to add as well that maybe if as you say with the Odyssey side of things, if this is happening kind of informally, maybe time to embrace that and give us a proper interface for doing these kind of transactions.
100%. SIRRUF.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to emphasize how important the materials and material grind is for AX Combat. Many people don't realize when they start doing AX Combat, they are told by someone at some point, probably sooner than later, that, oh yeah, you need to be stocked up on heatsink and flak mats because they run out mid-battle and you need to synthesize them. Maybe it is a way to introduce the better trade for materials, but I would like to just mention that the entire AX is heavily reliant on synthesis. For example, the Hydra, the highest interceptor variant in terms of difficulty, the so-called end boss of Elite Dangerous, that has been soloed by probably around 200 pilots in the game only. That's the true end game of Elite. You cannot solo a Hydra without synthesis. It is mathematically impossible. There is one guy who actually soloed a Hydra once without synthesizing ammo, but he still had to synthesize heat sinks. So as you can see, I just wanted to emphasize how important synthesis is to AX Combat. Also, I wanted to mention that despite this this part of Elite being so important to AX, there is not a single material trader in Pleiades, but putting it there, it would not actually be the answer. The answer would be probably, can you make us not synth when we want to go fight Targoids? Because that's not good, man. That's that's not a valuable gameplay. That's cancer, man.
Well said. Tweaked.
Well, something certainly for Axe, I can totally see that, but I'd even take it to the other portions of the game. PvP, you got to have your ships grade 5 engineered if you want to honestly compete in PvP. And the number one thing that would push new players out of this game before our current state with FDev and everything going on right now was the engineering grind. They either wouldn't do it, they wouldn't finish it, or they'd go. And why should, if a member of my squadron is working on engineering his shields and all of a sudden he's short 10 units of selenium or whatever, why can't I give him that instead of making him go grind, take a night, go down there, grind selenium and slow the process of everything down? There's no good reason not to do it. I would even go as far as to say I've got dozens, if not 100, and fully engineered modules sitting in storage. Why can't I sell those to other players? There's no real reason for it. FDev just, they don't want to implement this kind of thing, and I don't see where they're going to do it anytime soon. One side note I will say, to my surprise, you can trade materials with other players in No Man's Sky.
Oh, Jesus. Yes. And Soldier Sailor.
All right. So just to give you guys some idea of like what we're talking about when we say synth is a bigger deal to AX pilots, let's have a worst case scenario. Say you're totally out of mats. You were fighting Goids, in an incursion. You're totally out of mats. We use raw mats, we use manufactured mats, and we use Guardian mats. So for raw mats, you've got to fly out to the shards. You've got to load up. You've got to come back to a material trader, trade them down for the mats you want. Then you've got to fly around farming HGEs, or doing missions for biotech conductors and exquisite focus crystals to trade those down, because we use focus crystals when we synth Gauss, which are a grade 3 mat, so the exchange on that's pretty terrible. And then you got to fly out to Guardian space and blow up Sentinels for a couple of hours of relogging, and then come back, and then you can fight. Then you can actually access the content that you want after you've done all that. And something that FDev could do like tomorrow that would cost them nothing, that would help everybody in the community, is just have better exchange rates at the mat traders. That's something they could do tomorrow for free, and it would be like nobody would ever complain about that. Like it's something simple, it's free. It's like the best kind of solution for a company, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's going to lead well into the next topic, but I'm going to let Katie close out the first thought on this one, and then Roy's comment is going to take us right into the next one. Go ahead, Katie.
Sorry, I just wanted to add very quickly that there will be people out there who will say, don't make it a grind. Like you're making it a grind because you're just trying to go after these things. Just play the game. The problem with that is that what we want to do something very specific, and it is how we enjoy the game. The problem then is that the reason we try and get through this stuff as quickly as possible, the grinding stuff, is that we need those things to do AX basically. And even when you're rushing through it, as Soldier Sailor just pointed out then, even when you're rushing through it, it takes hours. It'll take you 3-4 hours to get the materials that you need for one of the bigger fights. And also, on top of that, then if you fail like the fight, even if you fail to get the summon on some of the bigger fights, you've then got to go out and do that process all over again. Straight, you go straight out. You got to grind out the materials again.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
It's very, very well said. And also, before I let Roy transition out, I want to say in the show notes we will have a link to your video on this topic, which goes into even more detail and shows with graphics some of the stuff with the materials and how that grind can be an issue and why trading would be a good idea, and has some topics on it. So Roy, go ahead and hit your comment, and that'll transition us right into the next topic.
Yeah, so I recall the statement from lots of our representatives from FDev talking about they want you to be able to play the game you want, the loop you want. If you want to be a miner, you should be able to just do that. If you want to do combat, you should just be able to do that. If you want to explore, you can just do that, and you can kind of stay in your lane, so to speak, and you don't have to do stuff in the other lanes to enable the lane you want to be in. And it seems like AX is the exception. And so the question is, if there is all this grind to get there, is there any way to make it fun? I think grinding can be fun. I'm making air quotes. It can be fun if you feel like you're being productive towards some goal, and also if there's sort of little goals along the way, not just a whole ton of grinding and then get the payoff. Often that comes from layering. For me, it comes from layering things like I'm doing a BGS mission and I'm doing some mining and I'm trading cargo, and I get to sort of overlap some different things. I'm struggling a bit to figure out how do you enact that with AX, given that so many of the things you need are stuck behind the worst unfun loops in the game, like the broken system for having to relog for everything. I think the first step is they got to fix that. I mean, that was something I was hoping we'd see in Odyssey and as you pointed out, some of that has been changed in Odyssey, but only for the on foot stuff. They haven't really changed the paradigm around Dav's Hope and relogging HGEs and relogging Guardian mats. Certainly what we just talked about could create some kind of a pyramid where you're almost like a squire to a knight in an AX group, and you're supplying materials and you work your way up and you're sort of doing things that you feel are productive towards that goal. But I really think the key is it's got to be something where you feel like you're making progress and it's productive, and it's not just work for 8 hours, then blow it all in one combat, and then you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the line. If there was something where there was a progression of people that were helping you stay at the top because you were the top of the combat prestige pyramid, and you had some sort of, I hate to describe it as a feudal system, but people supporting this activity in ways that were fun for them until they leveled up, so that it wasn't just all this work to get to the end. But I guess to go back to the beginning, it's sort of violating their own paradigm to have a game, sort of a swim lane. If people want to do AX, why should they have to do 6 other different kinds of lanes to grind through stuff to get to that point? That's the point.
I get what you're saying, man. So the second topic, which you just led us well into, was my topic of moving your grind from unfun loops in a sandbox gameplay. And what do I mean by that? Well, I spoke with, earlier in the week, I spoke with the SKUNKWORKS people, and we were hanging out and talking, and I said, look, grind in a theme park MMO is a good thing to a certain extent. It's part of a healthy process of keeping cheeks in seats for a certain number of hours. And let me sort of explain that before everybody gets mad at me. What I'm saying is, if you're talking about World of Warcraft, if you're talking about Final Fantasy XIV, if you're talking about these games where people pay by the month to play the game, and it's a theme park, you literally have, there are these things that you do, you run these dungeons over and over and over, and you collect your tokens, and there's a reason why you collect the tokens and you don't just get the stuff right off the bat, because you have to run that dungeon 30, 40, 50 times to get the right combination of stuff to get all of your things, because that's the loop. That's what is there. That's the game. Elite Dangerous is not that. Elite Dangerous is not a theme park. Elite Dangerous is a sandbox. Embrace it. You're missing stuff that theme parks have, but you have a sandbox. You have a whole other flavor on the menu to offer your players. World of Warcraft does not have 420 billion zones to do. World of Warcraft, you have your whatever. You have your, this expansion is 12 new zones, and the game's been going for forever, so we have a grand total of 200 zones. There's nothing new. There's nothing completely like, oh, okay, no one's ever seen this before. You have that in Elite Dangerous. You literally have 2 massive, completely unwinnable things. One is 420 billion galaxies to explore, and the second is a BGS where it's just this big, massive puzzle that no matter, it's the tide. It doesn't matter how much you fight against it, it's going to keep rolling over you forever because there's other people and they're playing their game. So you have multiple aspects of there is no winning this. You just do it. In this case, in this type of game, I think there's no point to a grind. The grind shouldn't be, I have to get the materials to get this thing. It should just be, I have more systems to explore than I could ever possibly win at. So go, that's your grind. The fun is your grind. Or I'm a BGS player. There's no way I could ever get all of the system stations in the galaxy that we control it because there's other people. It'll always, the tide will roll over you for forever and ever. So for stuff like AX pilots, right? First off, when I fly and do a CG, when I or not CG, when I do a CZ or a CG, combat CG or any whatever, and I'm flying around in a Haz-Res or whatever, I don't have to synth ammo. I fly and fight until I'm out of my shit, and then I go back to the base and I reload because my gameplay loop doesn't have that requirement. Theirs does. So it's absolutely stupid to me that they have to synth with materials that require them to stop what they're doing, fly far away, and go hunt for shit. No, just literally today, flip the switch and say, how much does it cost to do a synth of a reload of ammo? Okay, take 5 times that much, 10 times that much, whatever. Take any amount you want, 5 times the amount that it costs to synth, and you have to go to an AX tech broker, and you have to pay that much to unlock that ammo. And from now on, that ammo is completely free, mats-wise. It just costs you credits. We all have credits. Who gives a shit? So it costs you the credits. And here is this token for a reload of that ammo, and you can hold, say, I don't know, 5 tokens, 10 tokens. I don't know AX stuff. I'm embarrassed to be even talking shit in front of these 3 people. Let them
It's
tell
a
you.
great idea.
Let them tell you how many reloads, where it's like, we need 3 reloads at most of this, but we need 8 reloads at most of that. Whatever. Give them a 30% margin of error where you have extra. You have those tokens. And when they're done with their 1 hour or 2 hour or 8 hour fight that they do, they can fly back to the station, pay the man his fucking money, and get all of the reloads they need so they don't have to do a stupid, boring part to get to the part of the game that they like. Similarly for engineering of a FSD. I need a size 3 FSD that's long range 5 mass manager. Okay, just go and pay and unlock it once. After that, if I want to have 8 ships in the game, who is Frontier to say you cannot have 8 ships? Like, it's not hurting anybody. Let me have all the FSDs I want. It doesn't change the fact that I still have to go out there and jump and jump and jump to billions of galaxies to explore them all. Let me spend my time on the fun part instead of on the, I got to work at this. It's going to be 8 hours. It's going to be whatever. You have a lot of people that are spending a lot of time in your game, some of it on fun, a lot of it on not fun. Maybe move the needle a little bit so people get to the fun. All right, Roy.
So I think part of the, just to kind of thread off of what you just said and continue on from what I said a bit earlier, the unfun part of Matt's grinding, I think, is because it's largely a solo activity. There's lots of examples of other game loops in the game, like laser mining, for example, or shared trade missions, or other shared missions where even while you're in the grind, it can be fun because you're there with your friends and you're all participating and you have a sense that you're getting farther ahead than you would alone. And that doesn't exist in the solo Mats grind. So it's kind of like they're a bit schizophrenic. FDev's a bit schizophrenic about what is the paradigm here? What is supposed to be the fun part of this game? And is it as everyone's pointed out, there's some loops where you can have fun along the way, and there's other loops where the fun is at the end.
Yeah, like, again, World of Warcraft. You get to level 80, 90, 100, whatever the top level is now, right? And then I've beaten every one of the dungeons. Because well, this expansion, we've been working for 2 years, and we put out these 4 new dungeons. Okay, I've done them all. Now what? I'm done. I have nothing else to do. Okay, well, that's why they have grind in those kind of games, because you make it, it's impossible to beat those 4 dungeons without spending 6 months gearing your shit up and for the next raid or the next whatever. Elite Dangerous doesn't have that. Elite Dangerous there's hundreds of billions of systems. Good luck, fucker. You're never going to finish it. So, okay, then what's the point of the grind? Let the grind be that fun. Soldier Sailor.
Yeah, I was going to say the grind is boring because the grind is boring. You're shooting at rocks. You're flying endlessly in Super Cruise toward a signal source so you can relog on it over and over again. Shooting at sentinels is fun the first 50 to 150 times, but you do it so much that it loses all meaning. It's just like taking out the trash, the funnest you can make it is by taking assassination missions to get exquisite focus crystals, but then you only get 5 of them. Whereas if you're HGE logging or just flying from HGE to HGE, you can get grade 5 mats way faster. So the only way to add any kind of fun to it is to slow it down.
Also, why the hell do we have cross loop grinds? If you're an AX pilot and you need to synth AX ammo, why the fuck does not the interceptor that you just kill spit out a ton of tokens that you can scoop up and use to buy your AX ammo? If you're an exploration pilot, why, and you just want your fucking upgraded suit for your plant gun to have, I got the best plant gun and I got the best Artemis suit. Why do you have to run around and do conflict zones for that? Why do you have to shoot people if you're a pacifist that, Flossie from Hunt and Trucker? She hates combat, will not do combat. She loves exploration. Why do I have to shoot a guy in the face so that I can do better at exploring? Why do I have to go do, if it's just something that I'm not into? Why do AX pilots have to fly 300 light years to the left to go raid these ruins over and over and log out and log in and log out and log in and log out and log in so that they can keep hunting Thargoids? Wouldn't the Thargoids be able to pay that out? Katie.
Yeah, so I mean what Soldier just said then is quite a good example where the Guardian ruins, the first time I visited it was me and Will, my husband, we went together. This was back when he was still playing the game. And it was this little adventure we went on, and we unlocked the stuff, and there was these ancient ruins, and it was great. But having to go back there over and over again, every, twice a week, say, having to go back there and grind out more materials for hours at a time, just shooting mindlessly, it's lost all meaning to me. It means nothing to me now. And we don't, we want what's best for the game. We love the game. We want the fun parts of the game. We want to see the non-fun parts of the game diminish. We know people, we know a PvP community, the Thargoid Conservation Society, that have all left the game to go to a game called HunterNet, purely because there was no grind involved. They could just jump in, set their ship up, and just go and do some PvP. They can bring new people into the game immediately because there's no grind. You just jump in and they can go out and do PvP on an equal playing field straight away. It's very difficult to bring new people into the game or keep people who have become tired with the grind mechanic when the grind is a prerequisite for getting involved. And I'll save the bit about the instances for the discussion later on. But yeah, I think that emphasize the fun bits. Get rid of the grind. Get rid of the not fun bits. And I loved your idea about buying ammo, by the way, or buying refills. That would be heaven.
Interesting. I'm going to make another observation. The more I hear people tell stories about the grind bumming them out, the more those stories come with little asides of, oh, my husband back when he played the game before he quit. Oh, my buddy back when he played the game before he quit. Oh, my girlfriend back when she played the game before she quit. There's so much of that. Roy.
So this is actually a question for our guests. This is a random idea. Maybe it's terrible, but what if there was a variant of I'll call it CQC, but instead it was AX combat. So you basically, it's not in universe. There's a selection of ships and the weapons are already there. It totally sidesteps the grind and you just get to play AX. Would that hold any interest?
This would be my so as I said briefly earlier on, there is a sport side to AX, which is setting up an instance of, I mean, officially up to 8 Thargoids. We have a table that goes up to 20, but they're very, very time consuming and difficult to set up. We would love to see a situation where you could just jump on, set up an instance of whatever Thargoid you want, and go and fight them. Set up your ship with whatever weapons you want. I mean, we could bring a lot of people into the game, I think, with something like that. Do I think it will happen? I've got to live in hope, I suppose.
That's a whole other question, but yeah.
But just to give you an idea of, on top of the material grind for AX, if you want to take on the tougher fights, so any of the solo fights you could just find at a AXCZ, for example, or a non-human signal source. It's 4 a.m. I'm so sorry. Any of the basic fights you can find very simply. When you get to the more difficult fights, so as you progress through AX, you want to take on more difficult fights, you're reliant on either hyperdictions, which is when the Thargoids interdict you mid-jump between systems, or you go to a mega ship with a friend and they can help you get more Thargoids together. The hyperdiction route, I suggested years ago, about a year ago maybe, about changing the physics on this, but every 1 in 5 jumps on average, you will be hyperdicted. But most of those will just be like a Cyclops or 2 Cyclops, or things that the AX community are just not that interested in.
Mm-hmm.
The really interesting fights are 1 in 100 chance per hyperdiction. So that's, on average, 1 in 500 jumps will get you one of them. So you've got, in order to get on the AXI's Ace leaderboard, for example, you might have to spend a month, 5 hours a day, just jumping until you get the matchup you want.
Oh
and then
God.
you've got to, this is the difficulties that come with finding out you like AX. And AX is addictive. This is why Frontier should reduce the barrier to entry, because it is addictive and it's fun. The challenge is really good, but once you overcome it, you feel like you've achieved something. But on top of that, then you've then got to spend all of this time looking for the fights to begin with, looking for it. You've got to grind out the materials, and then you've got to spend all this time fighting the RNG, just looking for the fight.
I'll take that as a yes.
I think that
Definitely yes. I'm sorry, that was a long answer.
No, that was great.
That was excellent. That was excellent.